Ever feel like you're just going through the motions, playing by rules you never even agreed to? I used to do the same, constantly worried about fitting in, pleasing others, and playing nice. But one day I realized something shocking. Most of the social habits we're taught aren't meant to help us thrive. They're designed to keep us stuck. If you're ready to step off that exhausting hamster wheel and start living life on your own terms, it's time to quietly eliminate these toxic social habits. This won't be comfortable. It definitely won't be popular, but trust me, it will set you free. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the powerful mindset shifts coming your way. Let's get started. Number 1, the habit of people-pleasing. People-pleasing is a subtle but pervasive habit that quietly steals your autonomy and robs you of inner peace. It's the compulsion to shape your words, actions, and even thoughts to gain approval, avoid conflict, or fit into others' expectations. At first glance, it seems harmless, even socially beneficial. But from a Stoic perspective, it's a dangerous bondage to externals that undermines your freedom and virtue. The core Stoic teaching revolves around understanding what is within your control and what is not. Your own judgments, choices, and character lie entirely within your power. Everything else, other people's opinions, reactions, or demands, does not. Epictetus, the former slave-turned-philosopher, stressed this again and again. Some things are up to us and some are not. People-pleasing ignores this vital distinction by investing your sense of worth in the whims and moods of others, who are unpredictable and indifferent to your true value. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic sage, provides a profound example of resisting people-pleasing in a context where the pressure to conform was enormous. Imagine governing an empire while being scrutinized by politicians, generals, citizens, and enemies alike. Any sign of weakness or indulgence could have been exploited, yet Marcus consistently reminds himself in meditations that his duty is not to be liked, but to be just, wise, and courageous. He wrote, "Be indifferent to what makes no difference. And when you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." His focus was inward, on cultivating virtue, rather than outward, on pleasing others. This radical shift in focus is the antidote to the people-pleasing trap. In the modern world, people-pleasing manifests as anxiety about social media likes, career promotions, or constant attempts to avoid disagreements. Consider Oprah Winfrey, an icon who rose from hardship to unparalleled influence. Oprah's secret wasn't just talent, but fierce authenticity. She learned early that saying yes to every request or approval-seeking drained her spirit. Instead, she embraced saying no to distractions and negative influences, protecting her time and energy. This allowed her to build a legacy rooted in truth and personal values, not popularity contests. Oprah's journey is a practical reminder that you cannot be everything to everyone, and that trying to do so inevitably leads to burnout and loss of self. Why is this so crucial? Because when you tie your happiness and identity to others' approval, you give away your freedom. You become like a puppet pulled by external strings, reacting with fear, guilt, or desperation to maintain others' favor. This creates chronic stress and internal conflict. The Stoics teach that peace and resilience come from within, from living in accordance with reason and virtue. Seneca warned, "It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable." If your mind is ruled by the desire to be liked, it's conquered by external forces. Breaking the people-pleasing habit is no easy task. It often feels counterintuitive because social conditioning rewards it. But it's a necessary step towards self-mastery. The Stoics recommend beginning with self-awareness. Track when and why you seek approval. Are you afraid of rejection? Do you feel less worthy without praise? Then practice the fundamental Stoic exercise of differentiating between what you can control and what you cannot. Your actions and values are yours. Other people's approval is not. This mental framework can reduce anxiety and increase clarity. Next, build courage gradually by setting boundaries. Start with small no's in daily life. Maybe it's declining a request that overloads your schedule or speaking your honest opinion in a discussion. It may feel awkward or provoke discomfort at first. This is normal. Remember the words of Epictetus. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Epictetus shared, each act of saying no to people-pleasing is a brick in the fortress of your integrity. Also embrace the Stoic concept of amor fati, love of fate. Accept that you cannot control how others perceive you or react. Even the wisest, most virtuous individuals have faced criticism and rejection. What matters is your commitment to your own ethical compass and reasoned choices, not fleeting social approval. This mindset creates a profound sense of freedom and tranquility. Finally, reflect on your role models who embody this principle. Besides Marcus Aurelius and Oprah, consider Malala Yousafzai, who courageously stood for education and women's rights despite global criticism and personal danger. She did not seek approval from oppressive forces, but acted according to her values, becoming a symbol of resilience and moral strength. In conclusion, breaking the people-pleasing habit is foundational to a life of Stoic virtue. It liberates you from external chaos and grounds you in your own reasoned purpose. You will find that when you stop chasing approval, your actions become more authentic, your relationships more genuine, and your mind more peaceful. If this insight resonates with you and you want to dive deeper into building habits that lead to real inner freedom, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Together, we'll explore practical wisdom that empowers you to live with courage, clarity, and calm in a noisy world. Number 2. The habit of reacting emotionally to every challenge, insult, or setback is one of the most common habits that trap us in cycles of stress, regret, and exhaustion. It's natural to feel emotions, but the problem lies in letting those emotions control your decisions and behavior. From a Stoic viewpoint, uncontrolled emotional reactions are the enemy of reason and virtue, turning your mind into a battlefield where external events dictate your inner peace. The Stoics teach that it's not external events that disturb us, but our judgments about those events. Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This simple but profound insight is the foundation of emotional mastery. When you react impulsively, whether it's anger, fear, jealousy, or sadness, you surrender your power to external circumstances. You become a slave to your feelings instead of their master. Consider the example of Nelson Mandela, whose life is a powerful testament to emotional mastery. After spending 27 years imprisoned under brutal conditions, Mandela emerged not with bitterness or vengeance, but with a calm resolve and a commitment to reconciliation. His ability to manage his emotions and keep sight of his higher purpose allowed him to transform a nation and heal deep wounds. Mandela's life exemplifies the Stoic ideal. Even when faced with injustice and suffering, maintain your composure and act according to virtue. In contrast, history is littered with leaders and individuals who let their emotions dictate their actions, often with disastrous consequences. Emotional reactions cloud judgment, breed conflict, and undermine long-term goals. This is why the Stoics valued the cultivation of apatheia. Not apathy, but a state of being free from destructive passions. It is the tranquility that comes from aligning your reason with nature, where emotions are experienced but do not overwhelm your rational mind. How do we build this habit of emotional resilience? It begins with awareness. When you notice a strong emotional reaction rising, pause and observe it without immediate response. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Don't let your reflection on the whole sweep of life crush you. You are but an actor in a play, of such a kind as the author chooses." This metaphor encourages perspective. Your current emotional turmoil is just one scene in a larger drama, not the entire story. Next, practice reframing your thoughts. Instead of seeing obstacles as threats, view them as opportunities for growth and practice of virtue. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Each challenge is a chance to cultivate patience, courage, and wisdom. For example, if a colleague criticizes you unfairly, instead of reacting with anger, consider what you can learn or how you can respond with dignity. This shift from reaction to reflection is the essence of Stoic emotional discipline. Another effective strategy is the use of negative visualization, imagining worst-case scenarios in advance. This technique prepares the mind for adversity, reducing shock and emotional turmoil when difficulties arise. It also fosters gratitude for what you have in the present. For instance, before a stressful presentation, anticipate potential mishaps and mentally rehearse calm responses. This mental preparation builds resilience and steadiness. Famous entrepreneur Elon Musk embodies this approach in his own way. Known for facing immense pressures and failures, Musk openly talks about embracing setbacks as part of his journey. Instead of being overwhelmed by emotional distress, he channels his focus into problem-solving and innovation. His resilience reflects the Stoic mindset of controlling what you can, your attitude and effort, while accepting what you cannot, the unpredictable outcome. In practical terms, cultivating emotional mastery is a daily practice. Start by journaling your emotional responses and examining their causes. Reflect on whether your feelings stem from judgments that can be challenged. Then use mindfulness techniques and Stoic meditations to cultivate calmness and detachment. Remember, this is not about suppressing emotions, but about cultivating wise responses that serve your highest good. To conclude, breaking the habit of reactive emotionality is essential for a life of tranquility and purpose. It frees you from being tossed by every storm and equips you to navigate life's inevitable challenges with grace and strength. As Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Number 3, the habit of seeking external validation. One of the most damaging habits that silently controls many lives is the relentless craving for external validation. The need for approval, praise, or recognition from others to feel worthy or secure. This habit leads to a fragile sense of self, constantly shifting with the opinions and judgments of the outside world. The Stoics call this a grave error because it places your peace of mind in the hands of forces beyond your control. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic emperors, cautioned, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth by which no one was ever truly harmed. It is the person who continues in his self-deception and ignorance who is harmed." Cultivate. His focus was always on inner truth and virtue, not on flattering others or chasing empty praise. Why is seeking validation so destructive? Because the external world is unpredictable, fickle, and often indifferent. If your self-worth depends on what others think, you become vulnerable to disappointment, anxiety, and distraction. Your energy is drained by the endless chase for likes, compliments, or status, which leads to a loss of focus on what truly matters: your character and your actions. Take the example of Steve Jobs, the visionary co-founder of Apple. Early in his career, Jobs was known to crave attention and approval, often acting impulsively to impress others. But over time, he matured into someone deeply grounded in his own vision and values. He famously said, "Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice." Jobs understood that lasting success comes not from pleasing everyone, but from staying true to your mission and values. This shift from external validation to internal conviction was key to his revolutionary impact. The Stoics taught that the only approval you should seek is that of your own reason and virtue. Epictetus said, "Don't seek to have events happen as you want them to, but instead want them to happen as they do happen, and your life will go well." This means accepting reality as it is, including the fact that others' opinions are beyond your control and ultimately irrelevant to your moral integrity. How do we break free from the need for external validation? First, develop the habit of self-reflection and self-approval grounded in virtue. Ask yourself daily, am I acting justly? Am I honest and courageous? Am I improving as a person? If your answers are yes, then external opinions lose their power over you. Second, practice amor fati, the love of fate, which means embracing everything that happens without complaint. When criticism or rejection comes, see it as an opportunity to strengthen your resilience and refine your character, not as a judgment of your worth. Consider Malala Yousafzai, the youngest Nobel laureate, who faced violent opposition for advocating girls' education. She didn't seek validation from those who threatened her, but remained steadfast in her purpose. Her self-worth was anchored in her commitment to justice and education, not in approval from others. This unwavering inner conviction fueled her courage and global impact. Finally, cultivate gratitude for your own progress and inner strengths. Instead of looking outward for validation, turn inward for acknowledgement. Stoics believe that the soul's health depends on internal approval, not external applause. To summarize, the habit of chasing external validation traps you in a cycle of insecurity and distraction. Reclaim your freedom by rooting your worth in virtue, self-awareness, and acceptance. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you will ever dig. Sharpens. If these insights resonate and you want to build habits that strengthen your inner fortress, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's continue this journey of mastering life with Stoic wisdom. Number 4, the habit of reacting emotionally instead of responding rationally. One of the most subtle yet profoundly limiting habits we develop is the tendency to react emotionally, sometimes explosively, to life's challenges instead of responding with deliberate reason. This is a habit that silently steals your power, peace, and clarity. The Stoics recognize that uncontrolled emotions like anger, fear, and anxiety are not only destructive to your inner calm, but also poison your ability to make sound decisions, damaging relationships and your own well-being. Marcus Aurelius, arguably the most famous Stoic emperor, lived amid constant turmoil, wars, betrayals, plagues, and political conspiracies. Yet his meditations are filled with reminders to master his mind. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. This shows a timeless truth. Emotions arise not just from events themselves, but from how we interpret those events. Let's take a historical example, Abraham Lincoln. Despite facing a nation divided by civil war, personal losses including the death of his children, and constant political opposition, Lincoln was known for his remarkable composure. In heated debates and public speeches, he did not lash out in anger. Instead, he practiced careful reflection and empathy, weighing his responses before speaking. His emotional self-control allowed him to maintain moral authority and navigate the most polarized era in American history. Imagine how different the country's trajectory might have been if he had reacted impulsively to provocations. The Stoic philosophy distinguishes between paths, passions that enslave and disturb the soul, and eupatheiai, healthy emotions rooted in reason. Epictetus taught that while we cannot always control external events, we always control our judgments about those events. He said, men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of things. When you react emotionally without reflection, you surrender your freedom. You become a slave to your feelings, allowing them to dictate your actions and cloud your judgment. Why is this so detrimental? Because emotional reactivity bypasses the rational mind's filtering process. Anger narrows your focus to perceived threats, often exaggerating them and provoking destructive behavior. Fear can freeze you or lead to avoidance of necessary actions. Anxiety drains mental energy and clouds your ability to see options clearly. These emotional storms create chaos internally and externally. On the flip side, responding rationally means cultivating a mind that is calm, measured, and resilient. Nelson Mandela's life provides a compelling example. After 27 years imprisoned under brutal conditions, Mandela emerged not with hatred, but with forgiveness and strategic patience. He chose reason over rage, transforming South Africa through reconciliation instead of revenge. Mandela's ability to respond rationally rather than emotionally made him a powerful agent of change. So how can you begin to break the habit of reactive emotional outbursts and build the habit of thoughtful response? First, practice mindfulness and self-awareness. Start noticing the initial emotional surge when faced with frustration or conflict. Label the emotion, I am feeling angry, or I am feeling anxious, and observe it without immediately acting. This pause is crucial. It creates a space where you can decide your next move instead of reflexively reacting. Second, internalize the Stoic dichotomy of control. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, remind yourself it is irrational to be disturbed by what you cannot change. Channel your energy toward what you can influence, your judgments and actions. Third, engage in premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. Visualize challenges that may arise during your day or in specific situations. By mentally rehearsing potential difficulties, your mind becomes familiar and less shocked when they occur. This practice trains you to face adversity calmly and with reasoned strategy. Fourth, cultivate the habit of journaling like Marcus Aurelius did. Writing down your thoughts and emotions each day gives clarity, helps you analyze your reactions, and strengthens your rational mind. It's like mental training to prepare for future encounters. Remember Seneca's words, "No man is free who is not master of himself." True freedom lies in mastering your internal world, not in trying to control the uncontrollable external events. In practical terms, this habit reshapes how you interact with the world. Instead of losing yourself in emotional chaos, you become a beacon of calm and reason. Your decisions improve, your relationships deepen, and your sense of peace grows. If you find value in transforming emotional reactivity into rational response and want to learn more about building these empowering Stoic habits, be sure to like this video and subscribe. Together, we'll continue developing the mindset that leads to strength, wisdom, and resilience. Number 5, the habit of chasing external approval instead of cultivating inner virtue. One of the most pervasive and damaging habits that silently erodes personal peace and true confidence is the relentless pursuit of external approval. In today's world, this often looks like obsessing over likes on social media, seeking praise from colleagues, or measuring your worth by the opinions of others. Yet this habit is fundamentally at odds with Stoic philosophy, which teaches that true fulfillment arises from cultivating inner virtue, the excellence of character, rather than chasing fleeting external validation. The Stoics understood that external praise, wealth, or status are indifferent, neither inherently good nor bad, and thus should never be the foundation of our happiness. Epictetus famously stated, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." What truly matters is living a life of moral integrity, wisdom, courage, and self-control. When you anchor your sense of self in what others think, you hand over your power and freedom to forces beyond your control. Consider the example of the great philosopher and statesman Cicero. Despite being one of Rome's most celebrated orators and politicians, Cicero was deeply aware of the dangers of vanity and public opinion. He advised that a wise person must be satisfied with their own actions, regardless of whether the crowd applauds or jeers. He understood that external applause is fleeting and often superficial, while a clear conscience and virtuous life yield lasting peace. In modern times, the life of Steve Jobs illustrates a complex but insightful lesson on this habit. Jobs was famously driven, at times obsessively, by the desire to impress and surpass competitors. Early in his career, he craved recognition and approval from the industry and peers. However, as he matured, especially through hardships like being ousted from Apple, he began to focus more on the integrity of his work and the innovation itself rather than external validation. This shift allowed him to channel his energy into creating products that genuinely transformed the world. Jobs' legacy wasn't built on pleasing others, but on the virtue of creativity, persistence, and excellence. Why does chasing external approval undermine us? Because it creates dependency on uncontrollable external factors, other people's opinions, social trends, and superficial markers of success. When those are inconsistent or withheld, your self-esteem crumbles, causing anxiety, frustration, and even depression. Worse, it encourages inauthenticity as you mold yourself to fit others' expectations, rather than living according to your values. The Stoics urge us to cultivate eudaimonia, flourishing through virtue, which is entirely within your power. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't hanker after what you don't have. Instead, fix your attentions on the finest and best that you have, and imagine how much you would long for these if they weren't in your possession." Puro. This means appreciating and perfecting your own character, wisdom, and actions, which no one can take away from you. To break free from this habit, first practice radical self-acceptance. Acknowledge your strengths and weaknesses honestly without needing external applause. Reflect daily on your actions. Did they align with your principles? That's the only applause worth seeking. Second, remind yourself of the Stoic dichotomy of control. Your own virtue and effort are under your control. Others' opinions are not. Focus your emotional energy where it can create real change in yourself. Third, reduce your exposure to environments that foster comparison and vanity. This could mean limiting social media use or distancing from toxic relationships where you feel judged. Fourth, engage regularly in Stoic journaling or meditation on virtue. Ask, what would a person of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance do in my situation? Let these questions guide your daily behavior rather than popular opinion. The freedom that comes from this practice is profound. You stop chasing shadows and build a fortress of inner peace that no external storm can shake. If this resonates with you and you want to continue strengthening these Stoic habits that protect your mental freedom and build unshakable confidence, please like this video and subscribe for more. Number 6, the habit of reacting impulsively instead of practicing deliberate response. In our fast-paced modern world, where instant messaging and rapid decisions have become the norm, it's easy to fall into the trap of reacting impulsively. We get angry at a text, snap at a colleague, or make decisions driven by momentary emotions without pausing to think. This habit, reacting first and thinking later, is one of the most destructive patterns that erodes both our inner peace and our external relationships. It is a direct enemy of Stoic wisdom, which emphasizes the power of deliberate, thoughtful response over knee-jerk reaction. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor who governed one of history's greatest empires, faced constant pressures from war, politics, and personal loss. Yet he wrote in his meditations, "When you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Then you will forget your anger." This simple but profound guidance points to the necessity of interrupting our immediate emotional reactions and redirecting our focus inward. Instead of letting anger or frustration explode outward, we examine our own flaws and maintain perspective. Why do we react impulsively? Science helps us understand this better. The amygdala, the brain's emotional center, fires off signals the moment it detects threat or provocation, often before the rational prefrontal cortex, the seat of reason, has a chance to intervene. This biological wiring means our first instinct is often emotional, not logical. But Stoicism teaches us to train the mind to insert a crucial pause, an intentional breath, a moment of reflection, so that reason can guide our actions, not raw feelings. Consider Nelson Mandela, whose life exemplifies the Stoic ideal of measured response. Imprisoned for 27 years under harsh conditions, Mandela endured bitterness and pain, yet he chose never to react impulsively with hatred. Instead, he practiced patience, forgiveness, and deliberate calm, which eventually allowed him to lead South Africa through a peaceful transition out of apartheid. His strength was not physical, but deeply mental. mastering his impulses and choosing reconciliation over revenge. Mandela's life is living proof that the ability to respond rather than react is a form of ultimate freedom and power. Impulsive reactions damage relationships. A harsh word said in anger can cause wounds that take years to heal. Worse, they leave us feeling regretful and unsettled. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." When we surrender to impulsive emotions, we become prisoners of circumstance rather than authors of our own lives. So, how do we break free from this damaging habit? First, develop mindfulness. Begin by noticing the first signs of emotional escalation, increased heart rate, tense muscles, or racing thoughts. Name the emotion quietly in your mind. This is anger, and recognize that feeling is separate from action. This mental distancing weakens the impulse to lash out. Second, practice premeditatio malorum, the Stoic exercise of imagining possible difficulties before they happen. By mentally rehearsing provocations, whether a critical comment, a traffic jam, or a disagreement, you prepare yourself to remain calm and respond thoughtfully instead of being blindsided by surprise and reacting impulsively. Third, create a personal pause ritual. Marcus Aurelius' advice to pause, reflect, act with reason can be turned into a habit. Take a deep breath, count to 3, and remind yourself of your values before speaking or acting. Fourth, journal regularly. Reflect on moments when you did or did not succeed in controlling your reactions. Analyze what triggered you and how you could do better next time. This practice sharpens your self-awareness and strengthens your resolve. Over time, cultivating this habit changes you fundamentally. You stop being a slave to fleeting emotions and become the calm center in any storm. Your decisions improve, your relationships deepen, and your inner tranquility grows. This is not abstract philosophy. It's a practical skill that empowers you to live a more fulfilling and resilient life. If you want to continue building these powerful Stoic habits that transform your mindset and character, make sure to like and subscribe. The journey toward mastery of self is ongoing, and the next steps are just as crucial. Number 7, the habit of seeking external validation instead of building inner worth. One of the most insidious habits that quietly erodes our peace and happiness is the constant craving for external validation. We all feel it, the desire to be liked, admired, and recognized by others. In a world driven by social media likes, public approval, and status symbols, this tendency has intensified dramatically. Yet, as the Stoics teach us, basing our self-worth on the fickle judgments of others is a fragile foundation for a meaningful life. True contentment arises from cultivating an inner fortress of virtue and self-acceptance, not from the applause or approval of the crowd. Epictetus, who endured the hardships of slavery, yet rose to become one of the most profound Stoic philosophers, famously said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This distinction is crucial. We cannot control what others think or say about us, but we always control how we interpret and respond to their judgments. When we rely on external approval for our happiness, we hand over that control to forces outside ourselves. Our emotional well-being becomes as unstable as the opinions we chase, shifting like the wind and leaving us vulnerable to disappointment, anxiety, and even despair. The destructive nature of this habit can be understood through the lens of history's great figures who embodied Stoic principles. Take Abraham Lincoln, a man who faced repeated public rejection before achieving greatness. He lost multiple elections, suffered personal tragedies, and endured relentless criticism. Yet Lincoln's self-worth was not tethered to public applause. Instead, it was rooted deeply in his own sense of duty, integrity, and vision for the country. Even when public opinion swayed harshly against him, he remained anchored in his values, confident that acting rightly was more important than being popular. This steadfastness enabled him to lead a divided nation through its darkest hours, demonstrating how inner worth, rather than external validation, shapes true leadership and resilience. Seneca, another towering Stoic figure, counseled us to prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life, urging a daily reckoning with our actions and values. This means that rather than measuring our success by how many people applaud us or how many followers we gain, we should evaluate ourselves by the integrity and virtue of our deeds. If our self-assessment is grounded in our own reasoned judgment and commitment to excellence, we become immune to the swings of fortune and public opinion. This autonomy of mind, what the Stoics call autarkia, is the cornerstone of true happiness. Modern examples echo this ancient wisdom. Oprah Winfrey, one of the most famous and influential women alive, has spoken candidly about her struggles with self-doubt despite massive external success and admiration. She credits much of her personal peace to the hard work of cultivating self-love and inner worth independent of others' approval. Her journey is a powerful reminder that no amount of external validation can substitute the quiet confidence that comes from knowing and valuing oneself. Escaping this destructive habit requires deep inner work. It calls for daily reflection on one's actions and motivations, a commitment to aligning life with personal values rather than public expectations. It means developing a relationship with oneself built on kindness, patience, and honesty. It also means recognizing that the opinions of others are outside our control and thus not worth sacrificing our peace for. When you start to see yourself through the lens of your own virtue and effort, you create a steady foundation for happiness that no external storm can shake. Breaking free from the addiction to external validation is not easy in a world that constantly feeds this craving. However, as you practice this shift, you will notice a profound transformation. You will feel lighter, more centered, and more free to live authentically. You will stop living to impress and start living to improve, guided by reason and virtue rather than approval. If this insight resonates with you and you want to continue building a life grounded in Stoic wisdom and inner strength, remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Together, we will explore more habits that lead to lasting peace and resilience. Thank you for joining me today to explore these powerful habits through the timeless wisdom of Stoicism. Remember, true transformation does not happen overnight. It is the steady, daily practice of self-awareness, discipline, and virtue that builds a resilient and peaceful mind. The path may be challenging, but as Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Every struggle is an opportunity to grow stronger and wiser. If you found value in this journey toward mastering yourself and your habits, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. By doing so, you not only support the creation of more content grounded in practical philosophy, but also commit yourself to the ongoing pursuit of wisdom. Together, we will continue uncovering the tools to live a life of purpose, calm, and fulfillment. Until next time, stay grounded, stay focused, and remember, the power to change your life lies within you.